Mikko Rantanen is lazy, he's a locker room cancer, and he's a Nathan MacKinnon merchant. Psych! Mikko Rantanen just ended your favorite team's season.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Mikko Rantanen is that guy. He puts on the cape for the Dallas Stars and wills them to victory in Game 7 over the Colorado Avalanche by a final score of 4-2. What a thriller at the American Airlines Center on Saturday night. And we're here to break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Stars. I'm going to share some of my series observations as well from the 7 games. And yeah, we have to do a quick little preview on the Winnipeg Jets, the Dallas Stars' next opponent. That series starts in a couple of days. So much excitement coming out of Game 7. My goodness, where to start? Well, we'll have to start with number 96, Mikko Rantanen. And look, we talked about this as soon as the Stars acquired Rantanen in February. This is why you go out and you give up draft picks. You give up a good player in Stankoven. Maybe one day he becomes great to get an elite playmaker and goal scorer at the NHL level, and a guy that averages over a point per game in the playoffs for moments like this in a Game 7 where Dallas trails by 2 and Rantanen just threw on the cape and just goes completely dog mode in the third period and caps it off with a hat trick to put away his former team. I don't think you could write a better script for the Dallas Stars. It was such a shame I was unable to watch the game live, but I was keeping up with the score as I was calling games over the weekend. And my goodness, what an absolute thriller. And a big shout out to the Stars fans at the American Airlines Center. Y'all were incredible. The building went berserk, and you could just feel the energy. It was palpable in the building, and Rantanen was just going to will the Stars back in the game. He just ripped it off the pipe in the third period. That was a glorious sound to my ears. And then the wraparound off Gerard's skate blade. And then from there, it just felt like Dallas was going to score. They get rewarded with a penalty. Sagan got tackled, and then boom, the Stars capitalized on the power play. Wyatt Johnston sort of becoming a bit of a Mr. Game 7 here early in his career. 3 Game 7s for the 22-year-old. He's got goals in all of them, and he scores the game winner for Dallas to put away the Avs. But it was just an incredible scene. Could not believe what we saw in that third period. And weirdly enough, I thought Dallas's worst stretch of the entire game was the first 7 minutes of the third period. Of course, MacKinnon came out, scored a goal in the first shift for Colorado to make it 2-0. And you're thinking, oh gosh, this isn't good. Colorado's about to put us away. And Colorado continued to push. They were aggressive. They were not playing on their heels. Dallas struggled to get out of their own zone. But eventually, Rantanen started to pick it up. He started to drive the play and brought some others along with him. And it just created an entire different energy within the building after Mikko scored. And Dallas had to buckle up too. The penalty kill, once again, it was lights out the entire series. And they go perfect on the night. They go 3 for 3, including the 4-minute double minor early in the first period. But I can't say enough about how Dallas had to weather storms and had to weather a lot of pressure in the third period in particular. And Dallas was just able to flip the switch. And once again, it all boils down to Mikko Rantanen being that guy and having the clutch gene. And this is why you go out and get players like this, so they can have these massive, massive moments. I don't know if any of us expected Rantanen to burst on the scene like that in a game 7 against his former club with a hat trick, plus 11 points in his last 3 games of the series. Is just remarkable. His game score was 3.90 via hockey stat cards, was just all over the sheet. He had his legs early. So did Johnston, too. Johnston was buzzing off the hop, felt like he was going to have an impact in the game. And look, I don't know if a lot of Stars fans had a lot of faith after McKinnon scored early in the third period. Dallas wasn't really mustering up a whole lot. I will say, I thought the first 2 periods, Dallas really did not play all that bad. They weren't testing Blackwood enough, but I think both sides probably weren't extremely happy with the amount of chances they created or the amount of shots they were putting on net. Dallas had 10 shots through the first 2 periods, which at the end of the day is not good enough, but I still felt like they did not play that bad. That second period in particular, Dallas had a push about the 15-minute mark, I want to say. For about 5 minutes, they were on top of Colorado. They get the power play, and then they give it the shorthanded goal. And there was multiple mistakes on the shorthanded goal for Josh Manson. First off, Rope Hens, he turned it over on the entry. Then Harley kind of flybys on O'Connor. He doesn't try to kill the play on the wall. And then O'Connor is able to spin away from pressure and find Manson, who's cutting down the slot. And Duchesne also didn't back check that hard. There was about 3 mistakes on that play, but there's a few mistakes that happened even prior to Manson getting the puck that Dallas should have been able to neutralize and not give up that opportunity. It was a good shot, too, by Manson, and he got a nice bounce that went off the post and off the back of Otter. So a lapse there for Dallas, and they give up the goal early in the third, and that could be a point in the game where Dallas just kind of shrivels up and goes away. I think they showed at the 12-minute mark in the third period that Dallas had not come back from a multi-goal deficit in the third period all season long, let alone in the playoffs, although they have come from behind 3 times in the series after 40 minutes to win, but no more than 1 goal to come back to victory. And they do it in game 7. Pete DeBoer is now 9-0. In game 7s, the Stars became the first team in Stanley Cup playoff history to be trailing by multiple goals in the third period of game 7, but win in regulation. Rantanen, the first player in NHL history to have a 4-point period in back-to-back games. 4 points in the third period for Mikko, and he just completely took over the game. He just had a different gear in that final period of regulation. He just willed them the wraparound. And I know he got the deflection off the skate of Girard, but him just driving right through the heart of the defense, peeling wide around the net. He got Blackwood out and kind of swimming a bit. And by throwing it to that area, he gets the bounce. It's a ginormous power play goal for Dallas too, and they had to kill off a penalty. They had to kill off a penalty earlier before that as well. And we're going to talk about the penalty kill as a whole in some of my series observation, because that was where Dallas really had the edge. At 5-on-5, it was pretty even, but you could certainly make the case Colorado outplayed Dallas. But I mean, some of the big boys for Dallas came to play in this series, and Rantanen finishes the 7 games with 12 points. Johnston's right there with 7, and that's a pretty quiet 7 points for Wyatt Johnston, but he scored some, just big time, like timely goals. And I think that is really the theme of this series for Dallas. They were good in some of those high leverage moments. They scored some timely goals. Their power play clicked when it needed to, and they got kills when they needed it too. And that was the story of game 7 as well for Dallas. And Mikko Rantanen just puts the cap on it with the hat trick, and the building just erupted. What a night. What a night at the American Airlines Center. That was an absolute thriller, and such a darn good series between really two Stanley Cup contenders. And we say it all the time, it sucks out. One of those teams had to be gone in the first round, but that was a truly legendary performance. And again, it boils down to that's why you go and get players like Mikko Rantanen, because he has the ability to do that. And we touched on it quite a bit before the Stars got to the postseason. Rantanen is special during the regular season. He's a 40-goal scorer, over 100 points a couple of seasons. But the playoff numbers are what makes him very valuable and what makes him really special and what makes him worth every penny for the next 8 years. And I think he quieted a lot of critics. And I know some of that is just built up in our heads a bit as Stars fans. We take those criticisms with a bit of a chip on our shoulder. I think Rantanen did a bit as well. I think that meant a lot to him. And he talked about it after the game. Those are his brothers over there. It was emotional in the handshake line. But I think he had that extra gear to try to stick it to some people in Denver that maybe didn't give up on him, but they got rid of him. And they thought, well, this will be a better replacement. We'll go out and we'll get a couple of guys to try to replace him via the aggregate. You can't replace Mikko Rantanen. You can't replace him, even though Nathan MacKinnon is a special player. So is Cale Makar, of course. They were fantastic in the series. Don't get me wrong. Mikko Rantanen is very special as well, and I think he proved it. And I think that was just a massive weight off his shoulders to come up in a season-changing Game 7, third period, down by 2, to save the season for the Dallas Stars. And if 4 months ago I said Mikko Rantanen was going to save the season for Dallas, you would have thought I was bonkers and absolutely crazy. But that's what we got. Really, really phenomenal hockey game. And credit for Dallas for just sticking in there. And they turned it on when it mattered the most. It wasn't a perfect Game 7, that's for sure. They got scored on first, and they gave up a goal early in the first shift of the third period. That's not a blueprint for success to win Game 7s. They showed it constantly on ESPN. The first goal, usually 76% of the time, I think it was, that team wins. Well, Dallas reversed a lot of trends on that night. They had to come from behind by 2 and take it in regulation. But Mikko Rantanen is that guy. And thankfully, he was on Dallas and not Colorado. Otherwise, maybe the Stars don't even make it to 7 games against the Avs. But let's talk about some of the series observations as a whole. I had some assumptions, some takes throughout each game, each couple of games in the series. So let's just get my overall thoughts before we start to prepare for Winnipeg in the next round. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your banking account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money. You start building wealth. You can track spending, check your finances, even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is also brought to you by Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. And if you were on your couch watching the game from home at the AAC, go ahead and get your tickets for games 3 and 4 back at the AAC against the Jets. It's the intensity, the speed, the energy in the building. It's next level, and Game Time has you covered. Lets you get in the door easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off. The all-in pricing shows the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows you panoramic seat views, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And the Game Time ticket coverage, you know you're protected. Cancellation protection, job loss assurance, to their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKED, own NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. I appreciate the patience with all you wonderful Locked On Stars listeners out there. I was on a bus for about 10 hours today. Finally got to the hotel late on Sunday night, so I'm able to record my reaction, so to speak, to Game 7. I had to watch the game late. As many of you know, I was doing a game on Saturday night, but I was sweating out the score. I certainly was. And I saw it was 2-0 at one point, and I was like, oh, gosh. I am not going to be very happy that I have to watch this game over and eventually discuss it. But, Mikko Rantanen saved the day, that's for sure. But let's touch on some things in the series. And I mentioned I thought Dallas's depth was a big factor in the series, and I think some of that is true. Maybe some of it isn't. Look, at 5-on-5, Colorado certainly had the edge. And I think if you're an Avs fan, you can feel like Colorado maybe outplayed Dallas in most of the series. And, you know, I could push back a little bit, but I think it was really even. You look at the 5-on-5 goals, 14 for Colorado, 12 for Dallas. And the possession numbers in favor of Colorado at 5-on-5. The chances, of course, we talked about that. But really where I think the series came down to was special teams and some of those just really big moments. Jake Oettinger was fantastic in this series. There was one game I didn't like, and I want to say that was the Game 4 game. I didn't think Otter was that great in it. Although a lot of people liked what Jake Oettinger did, because he did face 22 shots, but there was a goal or two that I didn't necessarily love, but I'm not blaming Otter for that loss. Dallas didn't show up to Game 4 in Denver, but Otter finished with a .911 save percentage and a 2.85 goals against in that 7-game series. And it was a heavy workload for Otter. It's not mind-boggling numbers, but he was just a skosh better than Mackenzie Blackwood at the end of the day. And Blackwood ended up finishing with an .892 save percentage and a 2.71 goals against average. So Otter, who we thought was going to be an advantage in the series, ended up being one. Maybe not early. Blackwood was really fantastic for the first 4 games of the series, and then Dallas started to get to him. Of course, Mikko, Rope, they had their fingerprints on this series late. Like the stars for Dallas finally started to show up. And Colorado, you already expected McKinnon, Makar to sort of have their way, and they were there for a large, consistent stretch throughout the series. But man, Rantanen and others really took over. I mean, Granlund scored some big time goals for Dallas too. And this is where some of that depth comes in. And you just look at the impact of players like Sam Steele, Oscar Beck. No, they did not stuff the stat sheet, but instrumental on the penalty kill. To only allow 3 power play goals on 22, 23 opportunities I think Colorado had at the end of this series is fantastic. They were almost lights out. And I stated it a few times, they got a lucky bounce, a deflection on one of the power play goals, and the other I think Otter probably should have had. So in reality, you give up maybe 1 or 2 goals on the power play, and the Stars punch back with 7 power play goals. They get 2 from Johnston, 2 from Hintz, 1 from Sagan, Rantanen got one, and Jamie Benn scored one. He got the big one in Game 3. He scored no power play goals, or maybe it was one during the regular season. I'll have to check on that real quick. Ben scored one power play goal during the regular season, and then he got that big one in Game 3 after Dallas was trailing in order to come back for the overtime victory in Denver. The high leverage situations are where Dallas thrived, and that's Otter making huge saves, timely stops. The power play going 2 for 4 in Game 7, and the Stars took advantage of their opportunities, and Colorado did not at the end of the day. And you can complain and moan about officiating. Dallas took advantage. They didn't have every call go their way either, and Dallas bucked up on the penalty kill. They just really allowed Colorado to just fizzle a lot of their own opportunities. And that was something from Game 7 in particular. The Stars were just inviting Colorado to make those seam passes. Maybe they weren't inviting them. They were trapping them into thinking these lanes are open, and Dallas is just getting sticks on pucks. You saw it so many times in the series. McKinnon trying to work it 50 feet across, and it's just not there. Dallas getting sticks in lanes, and they're able to get key clearances. The 4-minute kill early in the first of Game 7 was spectacular. Even the Game 1, I know they lost it, but they had that big 4-minute kill there too after Marchment took a penalty. Just those special teams battles, and we talk about it a lot in previews. We talked about in the preview. We're going to talk about it again with Locked On Jets at some point. Special teams and goaltending are going to be the difference more often than not, and that was the difference in this series. And it's not like Dallas played their best in every game, but I think Pete DeBoer, coaching staff, deserve a lot of credit. They managed well, and they made some little key adjustments here and there. And in the games Dallas won, they trailed in a lot of them. They trailed quite a bit, and they were just able to continue to push and play to the finish line, so to speak. And that was something Dallas struggled to do for last month and a half of the season. They could not put 60-minute efforts together, and they had some issues in the series. Don't get me wrong, but one thing that I think gives Stars fans confidence, at least it gives me confidence, Dallas looked up for the task, and they didn't just fold in each game. Game 4, a bit of a different story. That one just got off to a rough start, and they could never bring it back on track. But they bucked up, and they beat a really damn good team in Colorado. And I think a lot of different guys deserve credit. I mean, talk about Petrovic and Liam Bichsel, ladies and gentlemen. How underrated was that pairing? And you can look at some of the advanced numbers for Dallas in the series. It's pretty remarkable where they rank for Dallas. Expected goals percentage. This is at 5-on-5 versus all situations here. 66% for Harley and Petrovic, but Bichsel Petrovic 55%. That was the most. That was the best number. Expected goals against 2.2 for Bichsel and Petrovic. That was the best for the pairings that played over 50 minutes, like actually played a large portion of time together. Like they were impressive. They were shut down for Dallas. They were better than Harley LaBouche. They were better than Lindell and CC in some cases too, although CC and Lindell take a large chunk of those penalty kill minutes. But I mean, for a pairing that is as a 20-year-old and a guy that played the last 2 seasons in the AHL, that's playing above. That's playing above expectations, and that's playing to the moment. And I mean, just those numbers in this via money puck, I think is a huge story of what Dallas did in this series. They got some of these guys to step up. You have to have guys step up when you're down a couple of great players like Miro and Robo, and they found a way to get it done in 7 games. Now you got the Winnipeg Jets. And you've heard me say it throughout the season in some of the meetings between Dallas and Winnipeg. The West is going to run through that team. Now, they did have some injuries to some key players. Dallas, of course, does too. But it's going to be, I think, a really, really fun, hard, physical series against the Jets. So let's just get some initial thoughts. We'll talk about the schedule as well in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. It's about finding the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Fast and easy hiring. Posting a job is free and simple. Within a day, you'll get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. I'm really looking forward to breaking down this series, and we'll have a couple of previews with a host of different characters. I believe in the next few days, I'll probably get back together with Sam Nessler, of course, of DLLS Stars. Always great to chat with him, get his thoughts on Colorado, and then now Winnipeg. And eventually we'll do a series preview with Locked On Jets with Harrison. I've never done one with him, just him and me, but he's an absolute hoot, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun in a few days. So be on the lookout for some of those coming out in the next few days. Speaking of Jets Stars, the schedule's out. This is about 30 minutes ago. Games 1 and 2, it will be in Winnipeg, Manitoba, May 7th, May 9th. So Wednesday, this series kicks off 8:30 p.m. Central Time for games 1 and 2. Games 3 and 4 in Dallas. Game 4, if necessary. Never mind. I was thinking of a best of 5 series, getting my series colluded with the team I work for. But games 3 and 4, actually some normal start times in Dallas. Can you believe it? 3:30 on May 11th. So that's game 1 in Dallas. Game 2 in Dallas, which is game 4, May 13th, 7 o'clock p.m. Central. So 3:30 and 7 o'clock for games 3 and 4 in Dallas. Some normal start times. Finally, that will be nice. But games 1 and 2 will be a bit later. And the series will kick off Wednesday. Well, I actually just ended up watching the end of Winnipeg, St. Louis tonight, and another thriller. And Winnipeg basically had to pull a Rantanen and Dallas Stars effort in Game 7, except they got it done in double overtime. They weren't able to get it done in regulation, but they scored 2 late goals, 2 seconds left, a tip in for Perfetti to force the game to OT. St. Louis really controlled a lot of that game, but they were able to hold on and close it out. And credit to Winnipeg. They get the job done. Lowry scores the game winner. But just some initial thoughts. They have some key players out right now too. Mark Scheifele, he did not play in Game 7. What is his diagnosis, right? Josh Morrissey, he was knocked out in Game 7. He took a big hit, and he did not return from the game. So those are 2 key pieces, and I think you could say are sort of the equivalent to Robo and Miro for Winnipeg. Hellebuck had a up and down series. For whatever reason, Hellebuck can be the best goaltender in the world, and then come playoff time, it wasn't very pretty, but at the end of the day, he gets the job done. He's always going to scare you because he is Connor Hellebuck, and he can be as lights out as anybody. He had an .815 save percentage and a 4.42 goals against average going into Game 7. That was going into Game 7. And he did not look all that good in this one tonight, although there was a deflection here or there that he probably couldn't do much about. But if Hellebuck shows up, like that's going to be a tough ask for Dallas. So a lot of great storylines. You have Hellebuck, Otter, the two U.S. netminders. Remember earlier in the season, a chance from Winnipeg, U.S. backup. Well, Hellebuck hasn't looked all that great. So, Otter is going to have a chip on his shoulder going in to Winnipeg for games 1 and 2. He's going to want to shut up that building, that's for sure, and prove maybe he's ready to take over as maybe the best goaltender that the U.S. has to offer. Still going to be a tough ask. Hellebuck, at some point, maybe getting through this round is going to settle his nerves, and now he can just play a bit more freely, and that's going to be tough. So that's a really interesting storyline there. St. Louis, I thought I thought they were going to win. I was like, wow, there's a lot of storylines there. But Dallas didn't fare that well against Winnipeg in the season series. I want to say Dallas went 1-3. And some of those matchups were not that close. Winnipeg was pretty darn good in most of those, and Dallas got ran out of the building in a few. So it's not like they have anything great to back to lean back on, but we've seen this with multiple opponents the last few years. Whether Dallas has been good or not against a certain opponent in the regular season, it really has no impact at all on what's going to happen in a 7-game series. But Hellebuck, Otter's the one that just kind of screams at you. And then, of course, it's Morrissey, it's Scheifele, it's Robo, and Miro. And come to learn, Miro, he had no chance to play in that series. And I know a lot of Stars fans were frustrated, including myself. I wish they just came out and said, he's not going to be available. And Pete DeBoer mentioned, even if Dallas advanced, the timelines are going to be pushed back, which is extremely frustrating because we were expecting Miro to kind of pop in back. And look, I'm not going to criticize the staff or the medical staff for Dallas not playing Miro if he's not ready. That's fine by me. At the end of the day, Miro's long-term health is way more important than throwing him into a really physical series that he's not ready for, that his body is not ready to handle. So I have no criticisms there. I get why they're quiet and close vested with it. But I think as fans, we do get a bit frustrated that I know it's some gamesmanship, but does it really matter at the end of the day? Maybe it does. And look, they're not out here to please me, the guy that just talks about the Dallas Stars, not as podcasters. They don't give a rip. So they have their reasons, of course. But from what it sounded like, there was no way Miro was ever going to play in that series. Robo, again, who knows? Look, your guess is as good as mine. I feel like I've sat here and predicted when they're going to come back. Sam had predictions for Miro, and they just never materialized. So at this point, I'm not going to worry about it. When he's back, and we'll be excited, right? I think that's I think that's where I'm gonna land. But it's going to be, I think, a really hard physical series. I think stylistically, this probably is a better matchup for Dallas, just because Colorado's so fast and they can play with so much pace. They can really outskate and hurt Dallas in the transition game off the rush, of course. Winnipeg maybe doesn't play that pacey of a game, but they're going to be hard and physical, that's for sure. So Dallas is going to have to be prepared for that. And we talked about this in the offseason a bit. Dallas needed to get more physical. They need to get heavier. I think this is going to be a series where it's the test. Like, you're either up for the challenge or you're not. This feels like kind of that measuring stick series. You went out and you tried to get guys that were going to make you tougher and more physical. Well, here you go. Is for a series like this, and see what you got. So that's how I kind of foresee the series here. Just spitballing a bit moments after Winnipeg finishes off St. Louis and in 7 games. So the Central Division lived up to the hype in the first round. I don't know if some of the other divisions did, but 2 grueling series, and it's going to be a ton of fun. That is for sure. So cannot wait. Of course, be on the lookout. We'll have some episodes previewing the series with Locked On Jets, of course. Probably try to get Sam Nessler and maybe some others to get you prepared for Wednesday night. And cannot wait. But Stars finish off the Avs in 7 games. Always intriguing, always dramatic with the Dallas Stars. They keep us on our toes. Alrighty, Stars fans, thank you guys so much for all the love and support. You guys have been continuing to smash the like button, smash all the numbers, subscribe. Let's keep pumping up those numbers. Let me know your comment, your feelings. How pumped up are you after that game 7 win over Colorado? And let me know your initial feelings on Winnipeg too in the comments below. But have a great rest of your day, Stars fans, and we'll see you on the next episode. So long.